Now, as we told you earlier, the UK head coaching search has concluded with Mark Stoops, the defensive coordinator from Florida State. And for some reaction on that, we're happy now to be joined by Larry Vaught. And Larry, we talked to you throughout this process a couple of times. What was your reaction to finding out Mark Stoops is the head coach?
I think a little bit of a surprise because he's a name that kind of stayed under the radar and you really didn't hear anything at all about him. It's kind of ironic that the first news about him broke through CBSSports.com and not somebody locally. But that's the way I think that Mitch kind of wanted to do it, probably preferred to do it, to keep the guy he had targeted under wraps. I think they talked to some other people, but I think when you're coming off a 2-10 season, you're playing in the SEC, you have some other limitations kind of working against you. I think for Kentucky to be able to go out and get the defensive coordinator at Florida State is maybe not what you would call a home run hire, but it's certainly a really good hire with a lot of potential. He's got a lot of recruiting contacts. He's been in coaching a long time, yet he's still relatively young at age 45. The one drawback would be that he's never had any head coaching experience, but certainly plenty of head coaching experience in his family there for him to lean on. So I think all in all, to me, you probably could not have expected a better hire from Mitch Barnhart, and is one who's kind of given Mitch a hard time and wondered how the search was going to all turn out. I think you pat him on the back and say, job well done.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are surprised because if you go over to the Joker Phillips final season, so much frustration with the fans, people not coming to the games. Then they announce the Joker's gone, and then you have these 3-4 weeks where nothing really happens. People say this, people say that. How do you think the fan base will react to this? Is this a hire that is going to get everybody fired up for next season? We're going to see bodies in Commonwealth Stadium. What do you think that reaction is going to be like?
I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's a hire that will at least start to do that. Now, it's a defensive hire and not an offensive hire, so it's not quite as sexy a hire as what you might have had if you brought in a real brilliant offensive coach. But the big key now will maybe be who's he going to have as his offensive coordinator and what kind of offense are they going to run. But when you've had a team that's as bad defensively as what Kentucky has been, I think the thought of maybe having a better defense should kind of excite you. But I also think that all the where the fans were upset wasn't just about the head coach. I think it's going to be a little bit more about now is there going to be more of a commitment to football? What things will maybe Stoops be given to work with that maybe Joker Phillips or Rich Brooks weren't? Is he going to make some demands that weren't there before? And I certainly hope that he is. And I would think coming from Florida State, he's going to have some things that he would want to have control over, want to have some upgrades on with UK football. And then I think if those things happen and he can go ahead and put together a good recruiting class, then I think the Kentucky fan base will come back and be there in Commonwealth next year.
If they can get, the problem everybody says is the facilities, and this job has been a dead-end job for a long time. He seems like, obviously it's day one, everybody's excited, a guy that can kind of defy that. If he can be successful here, and even if he leaves for a different job, leave a feeling around the program, which they haven't had in 20 years, maybe longer, of being a kind of a stepping stone, a place where you can win. But starting next season, what realistic expectations? They have some guys coming back off injury. Max Smith, he's a defensive coach. Realistic expectations for next year, what would you say those are?
I'd say it's kind of gloomy when you've only won 2 games and you got a schedule that's going to be even tougher next year and you're going to start over with a new staff. I think to sit here and say, well, if there's no reason he shouldn't win 7 games would be a little premature. But I also think he's going to be a young guy that's used to winning, and he's not going to come in and say we can't win and give all the reasons why he can't win. He's going to come in here expecting to win. He can make his players buy into that, get some things going. Maybe there's no reason that they can't win some games. I certainly think they should be a lot better than they were this year. I think they should be better on offense, and maybe he can get some better play out of some guys on defense, and maybe he'll get some immediate dividends by bringing in 3 or 4 recruits that he's already been in touch with from where he's at, that maybe we're going to go to somewhere like Florida State and sit a year or 2. Now they can say, hey, we can go with him to Kentucky and maybe play immediately and give some help. And if he can bring in some big-time defensive linemen to help, then maybe this team could be better next year than what a lot of people think.
When you look back, let's say 5 years from now, whether Stoops is fired, he's at a different job, he's still UK's coach, over that 5-year period, to look back and say this hire was a success, what are the things that you would want to see in that 5-year span?
Well, I'd want to see him win more games. I think that's basically all you judge, because if you look at the intangible things, I think Joker did a good job of, academic rates and keeping players out of trouble. He did all that, but he just didn't win games. I think you just have to judge a coach on how he goes out and his team performs on the field. And I think over the last couple of years, Kentucky just hadn't performed very well consistently, and you need a coach that's going to be able to get his team to play better consistently. And one of the ways he'll have to do that is you'll have to bring a guy on offense that can get some more consistent offensive production, because no matter how good Stoops' defense might be, you've still got to be able to score. And in the SEC, Kentucky's probably never going to have a defense that's going to shut the top teams down and win games 14-10 or 10-7. So he's still got to get the right guy to run his offense, and that right now will probably be his biggest recruiting job, more so than any recruits he signed, is who is he going to pick to be his offensive coordinator, and how's that going to work out with the returning players.
And as of today, day one, it is all good, and everybody feels good about it. Larry Vaught, thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to following what you write as this continues.
All right, thank you, TJ.